it's a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool that can be used for good. And if it's not used responsibly or, properly, it can result in harmful outcomes. And so you got to be smart. You got to be careful. You got to be with people who are trained.
Welcome to the Tip the Scales podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by Grant Lawson. He worked for Gerry Spence. I tried to get him to give me the scoop on that whole drama with the ranch and Trial Lawyers College. And then we talked about how to deal with a client that you do a great job for. Even though you got a great verdict, great result, they're like angry at you for no reason and unappreciative. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode. Grant Lawson, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you nervous? You seem
really
very
not.
nervous. You seem really, really nervous.
I'm actually not.
I was being sarcastic.
I'm humble. I'm very excited to be here more than I'm scared to be here.
My next guest is nervous. It's really cute.
I love her, and she's such a great soul.
Yeah, that's why she's nervous. So you're out of Wyoming, personal injury, I assume?
Yep.
Do you specialize in?
I specialize in trucking. I've been doing trucking my whole life. From the day I was in law school, actually. So I've always been on the plaintiff side. Started out in civil rights, oil field accidents.
Oh my God, I'm watching Landman. Have you watched it?
I have, yes. It brings me back, especially to when I first started practicing, because the oil field was still, it's still Wild West, and to some extent, it's still pretty wild.
Yeah.
But it's nowhere near what it was when I started. And when I started back in the mid 2000s, it was nowhere what it was like 20 years before that. So, it's an evolving industry where it's still very dangerous. People get hurt all the time, but it's nowhere as bad as it used to be. Thank God.
That's good.
Right. Yeah. So
tell me your story.
My story. So I got my start with Gerry Spence. A lot of people who watch you will know who that is.
Yes. That's
just
crazy though.
Yeah. Just
how lucky do you feel?
Dumb luck, total. Just because I was from Wyoming, and I pushed my way in the door and said, "Please hire me. Please give me a job. Please give me a chance." And it was luck. It was absolute luck that I ended up being able to do that. And I'm very thankful looking back that as an intern I was still in law school and flying around with Gerry in his private plane and going to events. And I had no idea how good it was at the time. It was good, but looking back, that experience is, you couldn't put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
With Gerry in the college? Was that, yeah. Sadly, like all good things that must come to an end, I think there were some serious power dynamic struggles.
So at what point did he step away? Because I've heard no one's ever really explained to me what happened. I know there was drama. I know that.
Yep.
But walk us through it. I feel like somebody needs to explain this to me.
Yeah. I'll do it from the perspective that I have. Which is all I can.
That's all I can
offer.
Yeah.
And I remain neutral because I have close friends on both sides, all sides of the issue, so to speak. And the Trial Lawyers College was something that was near and dear to my heart, especially being from Wyoming. And those who were part of Trial Lawyers College always knew me. I was Mr. Wyoming, right? I was nicknamed that when I went to college back in 2010.
And excuse my ignorance, I literally know nothing about this. All I know is that there was drama.
Yes.
Was Trial Lawyers College part of Gerry Spence?
Yeah. So Gerry started the Trial Lawyers College.
He started it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Back in 94, I believe.
At the ranch.
And yes, he bought the ranch, got the ranch up outside of DuBois, Wyoming.
Okay.
And turned it into this incredible, I don't even know how to describe it other than this very sacred place where lawyers could get away from themselves and get away from being lawyers
and do psychodrama
and become humans again, learn how to be like normal
Did
humans.
you do psychodrama?
Oh yeah. I've done a lot of psychodrama.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you ever do it with Dan Ambrose?
Yeah. So Dan was there. Dan, I know, I'm trying to remember. I don't believe Dan was in my class.
Because
but
nothing
Dan,
sounds worse than that.
yeah, no. I mean, I've been with Dan in psychodrama. I've been with Dan at Trial Lawyers College. I've known Dan since I started going there in the 2000s. And yes, Dan,
He's such a
what
character.
Dan has described it is a response that you will get from a lot of people. For me, I've had really groundbreaking breakthrough moments doing psychodrama.
That's really
I've been
cool.
with others that have had that experience. I've had people that have not had such a great outcome.
Yeah, I had someone that said it was like totally triggering and traumatizing to like relive certain things. But that's like, I've maybe heard that like 1 out of 10 people that have, everyone else has said it was amazing. So
yeah, it's a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool that can be used for good. And if it's not used responsibly or, properly, it can result in harmful outcomes. And so you got to be smart. You got to be careful. You got to be with people who are trained, I mean, I've used it and I still do use it in my practice with clients, but I do it in a way.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wait. You use it in your practice with clients, like what the things you've learned or actual psychodrama?
Yeah, I mean the psychodramatic techniques, right? That you learn, that you go through.
So what do you learn? I don't think anyone's ever explained it to me in that context. They just said, you act out these like dynamics and things that have happened or something like that.
I mean, just to maybe give you a really easy example. So I have a client who is badly injured in a crash. And they are really struggling to explain what happened. And so rather than just explaining it using words, it's literally recreating what happened, recreating that situation, that place and time, coming back to, present sense of smell, sight, all your senses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hear, sight, smell, all of the things, touch, and slowing it down to actually be there, reliving it, that can help somebody who's maybe having a hard time getting the words out to describe something, actually feeling it again, which really recreates the truth, the reality of what the situation was. And I use it in a lot of I've used it in a ton of contexts over the years. In fact, I use it on defense witnesses to put them in present tense, present situation.
And how do you do that? Are you just like describing the?
Yeah, I'll have them get up. I'll have them get up in the room where I'm taking a deposition, and I will have them actually recreate. For example, oil field case, a great example. Put me on that rig floor. Put me on that rig floor and explain. Build this standpipe out. Build this wellhead out. Build these parts out. Let's see it. Grab chairs, grab props, whatever in the room. Let's build it out and let's look at it. And the magic in that is that people go to that place in time in their memory, and they they have a hard time fabricating what the reality was because they're reliving it. And it's sometimes very magical because it forces people to be in the moment versus telling a story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Do people like break down?
Yeah. I mean,
it sounds a little traumatizing.
It can be. I mean, again, you gotta use it in a responsible way, especially with your own clients who have suffered.
Do lawyers
harm.
do this?
Yeah.
Is it a common thing? I've never heard of it. So
well,
that's why.
Lawyers that are part of the Trial Lawyers College days and whatever you ever call them from now on. I mean, there's Trial Lawyers College, there's Gerry Spence method, but back when I started going to the Trial Lawyers College in the 2000s and all through my time period with the Trial Lawyers College, and I taught and I was on faculty and all those things, that's what we practiced. We taught these lawyers how to do these things so that they could use it in their practice.
Got it. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah. Back to the drama. So at what point does Gerry Spence step out?
So, I mean, Gerry, as he aged, I think just as a product of aging, kind of slowly was phasing out. And those with the interest to take kind of a bigger leap in or a bigger step in directing the college, having control or decision-making authority over the college, kind of stepped in. So the power vacuum kind of was there, right? Gerry's leaving the scene. Others are stepping up. Others want to be heir apparent, right? Want to be the next Gerry, want to be the leader. There begins to be the
But
power struggle.
Didn't Gerry owned it?
So technically, the Trial Lawyers College was not owned by Gerry. It had a board of directors. It was more like a nonprofit.
Huh.
Right?
And the ranch?
The ranch was owned, and I may misstate this. I want to make sure I'm correct. I don't know if Gerry still owned the ranch or if it was owned in some other entity name, but the ranch did stay where it is, obviously.
Right.
And with that group or faction that stayed there and broke off.
So how many people were like wanting this position?
Ooh. I can't answer that because I don't know everybody's hidden desires, but there those who,
How many people were involved though?
Well, the board,
like 10, 5,
yeah, I mean,
3?
the board itself was, I can't remember if it was, 10, 15, 20 people, but there were people involved, who some were obviously stronger personality types and more vocal than others and had more influence, not only on Gerry or on the way it worked out. So, there's Rex Paris, there was Joey Lowe, there were a number of others that kind of remained with Gerry and took it to the next level, which was the Gerry Spence method at Thunderhead Ranch, and then the Trial Lawyers College, which broke off with some or most of the board that took it and started elsewhere with that.
And you didn't go with either?
I didn't go with either. I mean, I've been asked to teach and participate with both. Frankly, my feelings were hurt so badly by the breakup, and losing, and maybe not wanting to lose friends on both sides, that I was just angry at everyone, and I just stepped back and stepped away.
So they all fought over it, and then what happened?
So they fought over it. It went to court in Wyoming. Lawsuits were filed,
which is public information, right?
Yeah.
And what was in those?
Oh
lawsuits?
Gosh. We'd have to read them together so that I don't,
I don't want to
make something up here, but I don't like to read, no. So
I just talked about my reading skills.
Yes.
Lack thereof.
I read because I have to, not because I like to.
I like to read. I don't like to read things that don't interest me. Like it probably would interest me. But it'd probably be a little too lawyery for me.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to reread it a few times to get it. Would be my guess.
I mean, I don't know about that because you're pretty smart, so I think you get it. But
not in reading comp.
But if you're like me, where you're like, I'm losing interest, and now in my head, even though I'm reading these lines on the paper, I'm actually thinking of
that happens to me a lot.
Completely different out there in the world.
And then you have to reread it until you actually are paying attention.
Right.
Which is kind of a weird thing, right? It's like you're tricking yourself into thinking you're reading, but you're having a whole completely different thought or conversation in your head.
Yeah.
But you're literally going through it's the weirdest thing.
I mean, that defined my grade school years. Like, I would read books that I couldn't tell you one thing, even though I sat down and read them.
But see, that's the thing. That's not reading. I think that's just like looking at something and moving our eyes as if we're reading. It's not reading, though. Yes. You really think about it. Okay. So they were just fighting over who got to do what with it? Yeah,
well, there's a lot there. I mean, depending on who you talk to, I mean, there were people who were taking the college in the wrong direction, and both sides will say that, right? Both sides will say, this side was taking it the wrong direction and this side is taking it the wrong direction. And these people are, improperly influencing, and these people have too much, control. And I mean, whatever. Bottom line is there's a lot of egos.
I was going to say, what do you think happens when you put 15 lawyers?
Yeah. Big egos,
in charge of this one thing. And none of them can agree on it, or some, Yep. And I'm sure people clearly had some people agreed on one side and clearly others on the other.
Absolutely.
That's what it sounds like.
Yep. And I'm not here to say who's right or wrong. All I know is they destroyed the most beautiful thing, one of the most beautiful things, one of the most magical things that was in my life that I cherished and grew up in as a lawyer. And I'm still really sad.
You were like the child whose parents got divorced.
Absolutely.
Because And you said Gerry's still alive?
So Gerry is still alive. I believe he turns 95 here in less than a month. He's almost he's 50 years older than me. I just remember it. He's 50 years older than me. And so I'm 45, turning 46 next year. And so I know he's either turning 95 or 96 here in a couple weeks.
Do you still talk to him?
I don't. No, I haven't talked to Gerry, and I don't. The last time I tried to talk to Gerry, it's been a long, I don't know, maybe 5.
Does
6,
anyone
7
talk
years
to
ago.
him? How is he doing? Do we know?
You know, so I worked a lot with his son, Kent Spence, who I spent a lot of time working with.
What is he? I've never heard of this
You never heard of
person.
Kent?
No.
Oh, Kent. Oh God, you would have so much fun with Kent on your show. He's rootin' tootin', harmonica playing.
Is he a lawyer?
He actually retired. He retired. Yeah. He retired.
Can we get him on the show?
Oh, absolutely.
Where does he live? Don't tell me what.
Yeah, he lives in Jackson Hole. I think he's spending part of his time down in California though. So I think he's kind of he's focused on playing music.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I would love to have him
Oh,
on.
he would be great. He could tell you so many great
Maybe
stories.
he'll do it virtual. I'll make an exception and do virtual for him.
Yeah.
If he's like willing to do it, then okay, you have his email?
Yeah, I've got his cell phone. I got his email, wherever you need.
We'll talk about
get
it.
it.
See, I think that would be fun to hear from his point of view what it was like growing up with Gerry as a dad.
Yes. I think that would be a fantastic show that a lot of people would love to hear about.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about that some more. Okay. All right. So lots of drama. They split up, blah, blah, blah. Cool.
Yep.
Exactly what I imagined.
Yep, exactly.
You did not give any dirty details. So
no dirty details.
Okay. So tell me more about you then. So you start off at Gerry's firm. Then what?
Well, yeah. I mean,
how long were you there?
So let's see here. I started when I was 27, and then I moved on when I was 30. God, dude, you tested me on math 8 years ago. So how long ago was that? I was like 37.
Like, what was that like getting to have such close proximity?
It was terrifying. Definitely terrifying at times.
Is he scary?
He's very scary.
Really?
I don't know if this would be the right context because people maybe not understand, but those who went to trial lawyers college will understand that when you're doing psychodrama, it's a big deal. You're in this big group together doing this. And Gerry would always come in and play God because he's very godlike,
Really?
Deep voice and very all-knowing and all-commanding, and I can't begin to try and do my best Gerry Spence voice. I can't even do it. It's just too unique. But, one of the best memories I have of meeting Gerry when I was interning, I was 27, I was still in law school. And I went out to the airport, found out I was going with Gerry to some event with a bunch of military folks, military lawyers down in San Diego. So I flew with Gerry down to San Diego, and I sat in this little plane with him, and he's back there behind me reading his paper. And the only thing that he says to me is he drops his paper down, and I was wearing a gold wristwatch that my dad had bought me or something for like graduating high school or college. I don't know, something stupid, right? And Gerry looks at me and he goes, Grant, you're not going to wear that watch anytime you step into a courtroom. And I was like scared to death. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with my watch? Is it not nice? You don't want to give people the idea that you're just some fancy rich lawyer. So you're not going to wear that gold watch. You're not going to wear anything gold. And from that time forward, I never wore any other jewelry other than my Apple Watch.
Wow.
But I just, that kind of stuck with me.
I was like, is he wearing a Rolex? I'm going to call him out.
Yeah, obviously, things are probably different now. Gerry started practicing 60, 70 years ago, however long ago, and back for a long time, if you showed up in a courtroom in front of a jury of especially Wyoming or, Western conservative folks wearing a gold watch, you were just some greedy lawyer, right? But that kind of stuck with me, that means something, that there's still some importance to, yeah, I get it, look nice, but don't also show up in the courtroom and try to make yourself better, look better, be better than the people that are sitting in that jury box, because you're just one of them. You really are.
Interesting. I've heard lawyers say the complete opposite. Like, you want to show up. And I think it also does depend where you live.
Sure. That's probably true.
I could also see that. I can see both sides to it, actually. I think it's very dependent on the jurors and like what they're impressed by or turned off by or whatever.
Yep. Absolutely. Makes sense. I mean, me showing up in Miami wearing my cowboy boots and my, belt buckle.
But Sagi Shaked walks in. I think he looks, Sagi does great in Miami.
Sagi's great. We're doing a case together right now, in fact.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Yeah. He's one of our clients.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's great. I love Sagi, man. He's great.
Yeah. That's who told me that he dresses a certain way for court.
So funny, that's what comes to mind. So when he comes up there, I'm going to be like, all right, dude. No fancy Italian suits.
Tell him he has to wear socks.
You got to wear socks. You got to wear socks. That's a bare minimum.
It was so funny. I don't know what conference we were at. I think it was STLA. And somebody was giving a speech and was giving him shit for not wearing socks. It was really funny.
I wish I would have been there for that.
Yeah, it was really funny. Okay. Do you watch Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Do you think it's accurate?
No.
Really?
Not at all.
What?
No. Oh, God.
How not? No, you're breaking my heart here.
I mean, listen, it's Hollywood, right? You gotta Hollywood it. You gotta make it bigger and more dramatic. I mean, I think there's certain aspects of it that are relatively true or accurate in some way, shape, or form. But when you get to like Beth getting blown up in her law office and shit like that to me just killed it. I'm like, okay, this is too far. This is too much.
Yeah.
This is too much.
I think it's probably my favorite show right now.
It is a great show. I'm not going to get, I'm not going to
It's one
lie.
of the same creators or writers, I forget who, that's doing Landman.
Right.
He's actually...
Did they do the other 1880?
Yes, he did all of those.
Yeah, the other one.
What is it? 1923 and 1883.
They're
all really
good. A lot of
good.
numbers.
They're all really good.
They are very good.
Like,
they are very good.
I don't know. I wonder if it's just like, we live in the present, obviously, but like you kind of like are like, oh, I wonder what it would have been like to live in a different era.
Yeah.
And you can't imagine the future, so you can't like really, think about that. But
right.
I think the past had like a calmness to it. I guess they probably wouldn't agree just because of like medicine or lack thereof.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think.
But no cell phones.
I mean, can I ask you how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 39.
So, I mean, you're close enough to my age where, I mean, being 45, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 79, so I identify as a Gen Xer. I will not identify as a millennial.
Yeah.
So we can make sure that's clear.
Yeah, that's very clear. I'm a millennial, but I'm an immigrant, so I don't count.
Oh, okay. So
immigrant millennials are just, they're not really millennials.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, we can get
because
into that,
I mean, it's like a complete different upbringing when you're an immigrant.
Well, okay, that makes sense. I mean, that was my point. Is that I grew up in a time where technology wasn't, it wasn't what it is now for every generation after that's grown up.
Totally.
With a complete different view of the world. I mean, I still remember what it was like. That sounds ridiculous. I mean, I'm not 80. Let's be real. But at the same time, I still remember what life was like back before everything was technology driven and cell phone driven. And we had a life that was, based on, could you, pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody
and you'd play outside.
Yeah. Oh, that's all I did.
When like we got internet, you'd hear that like dial up. There were pagers were cool. Like I begged my parents for a pager. They wouldn't get me one. When AIM came out, was that what it's called? The AOL thing?
Oh, yeah.
That was like,
instant messenger.
I hadn't thought about it until I was listening to this podcast called Acquired. And there was this episode. The reason I listened to it is because it's an episode about Facebook. And like, it was so good. I was like, this is crazy. And like the whole history of Facebook. It's like a 6-hour episode.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch this.
It's honestly like fascinating, like really like have a completely different level of respect for Mark Zuckerberg after listening to that.
Oh,
because
good.
there's so many times that he could have done something different, but like the decisions he made for Facebook were like, holy shit, like I never would have thought to like approach it that way. And it paid.
Game changing.
It was crazy.
Life changing for many. I mean, I remember getting on Facebook.
Me
I remember
too.
the day I can remember I was
Me
in
too.
college. I was in college and I remember being at the computer and being like, okay, what do I do? Well, created an account.
That's crazy.
That's wild. So
yeah, I remember that too. Like getting on Facebook. I remember I was thinking about Instant Messenger when I listened to it because they talked about it. And that was like a big change. Like this idea that you could chat with strangers and with your friends instantaneously. Like we were the first ones to experience that. It's kind of cool to think about.
it is cool. I mean, and it's also, it'll be interesting because as we get older and the generations that are now coming through who know nothing but technology, we're going to be the dinosaurs that can still talk about, what it was like with dial-up phones or
Totally.
Pagers. I had a pager.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
That's so cool. I still want the pager.
I know, they're so cool.
But like,
let's bring it back.
That's what text message is if you think about it.
Right.
Well, think about it. Like, I feel like our grandkids, maybe our kids, but definitely our grandkids will be like, you drove a car? And like,
oh, wow.
Driving a car will be something that you go do for fun.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's hard to think.
Like horse riding now is for fun, right? It'll be like, oh, let's go to the range and drive a car. How cool. Instead of like, and they're going to think it's crazy. Like, you guys drove?
Right. That's wild to think about.
Every day? Every time you had to go somewhere, you would drive? Like, that's something we do for fun.
Right.
Crazy, right? And
that is crazy.
And think about it. It might be something that only like the privileged get to do because it's going to be so hard to access that and have like the space for someone to go. And you have to learn how to drive a car.
Well, like there's a lot of people that live like that right now, probably in big cities, I'm guessing, New York or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up in my own mind, but that don't have cars, don't drive, don't know how to drive.
Probably. I mean, I guess, yeah. Like if you are born in New York and you like don't leave, why would you ever learn to drive a car? I mean, you'd have to be pretty privileged because like parking that car, where the hell do you park it?
Yeah.
I guess a garage, but.
I think cars will always, at least trucks, will always survive in Wyoming. There's always going to be a need for a truck. I drive a truck, so.
That's what you think, but like you never know.
Yeah, that's true.
The world is going to change, and laws could come into place and take that out of the equation where it's illegal to drive unless you're in like a specific area where you just go drive for fun.
Oh, then it will become like can't take my guns. Pry my Ford F-150 out of my cold dead hands. That's what it's going to become.
We'll see. Maybe we won't be around to see it.
I don't know.
And I mean, I guess for PI, that's like the end of one component of PI.
Yeah, right. What are we all going to do?
There's so much for you to do.
I mean, I'm joking. Well, we'll
the
find
companies, I mean, there'll still be accidents. Technology fucks up.
Yeah, there's going to be, think about all the robot, product liability, all these robots out there,
that like goes crazy,
kills
crazy,
you. Yeah.
I mean, it could happen.
It's going to happen.
Like, that's going to be like the new dog bite.
Exactly. Damn robot.
It chokes you to death. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen.
I agree.
Did you see, I saw something on Instagram, I don't know if it's true or not, that they tried to shut down an AI and it like didn't let them.
Yes,
like
I read that.
Try to escape or like something crazy that I was like, are they trying to scare us? Is this even true? I haven't fact checked it.
Yeah, I don't know. AI's, it's so groundbreaking and scary, and who knows where it's going to go. I mean, are we going to end up in the movie Terminator? Is that really what's going to happen?
I don't know.
Or
I don't like it. But then I think, is that how like our grandparents felt about the internet?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't like it. That's weird. Like, that's like, why do you need to go do that? Like, I have a bunch of encyclopedias that cost me a pretty
Yeah.
penny. Like,
I'll
just go.
send a letter.
Yeah. Yeah. Super, super, super crazy.
Right.
Although, see, if there had been modern technology, my grandparents would have not ended up together because he was supposed to get married. I can't remember. I got to get the story right. But there was a letter basically that never got sent.
Oh.
And if it had gotten sent, he would have gotten married to this woman. And he didn't. So then he ended up marrying my grandmother.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
good
it was
story.
like and then they found the letter like 10 years later. Like it was like in a drawer, like it never got sent.
Destiny.
Yeah. So
It's a great destiny. Wow.
I mean,
You're here. So it matters.
I know, but it wouldn't have happened if there was technology. He could have sent her, like he would have been able to FaceTime. And we're talking about times when like you couldn't even call.
Well, I mean, isn't this also kind of explain why birth rates are on such a huge decline? Because there's so much technology and it's preventing people from
totally
being human and being out there and meeting people and making relationships and being vulnerable and getting turned down or getting a date.
Right. I mean, they're saying that, like, I forget it's not millennials, probably what's next? Gen Z?
Oh,
they're like having
millennial, Gen Z, and then there's one after that now, right?
It's probably Gen Z that is having like the least amount of sex of like any generation.
Which is crazy because you would think that technology opened up that door to be like, hey, you want to hook up, Tinder, whatever, I don't know. This is all after.
I mean, yeah, you would think that with Tinder, I never got to do any of that, thank God. But like, you would think that with Tinder and whatever all the other ones are, there would be more hookups. But that's not the case, apparently. Which is really weird.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I think maybe it has to do with that the human connection is important. Just like you and I were talking earlier, how doing a podcast virtually, that's not the same, right? I mean, being able to connect face to face with somebody, you just can't do that through any other source than being in front of somebody.
I can tell the difference. I haven't done a virtual one in like 2 years. I think I've only done like 3 ever. And I just did not. It's not the same. And like, I get distracted if I'm on virtual because like a text will come in or like a Slack will come through. Whereas here, it's like, I'm not going to grab my phone and be rude. Like it forces me to be like in the moment, to be present.
Right.
Like if I'm getting bored, I'm forced to like pivot the conversation. But virtual, it's like so hard because it's like, okay, this person's like boring me. I'm gonna, instead of like taking control and like, I'm just gonna like start checking my email.
Well, I think that that's such a great point that goes across the board for everything we do as humans now, right? Especially, trying to be a parent, trying to be a lawyer. You can easily be distracted at any point in time during the day with whatever it is, text messages, emails. You're bored. We get bored so fast now. Get bored so fast.
My kids will come to me and they'll be like, Mom, I'm bored. I'm like, good. Great. Do you want to help me clean? No. Okay. But I'm bored. That's wonderful.
It is. I love making my kids live in their boredom.
Yes. It's also like just like a level of discomfort that they're like not okay with. And I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. Like, how did I survive? Like,
yeah.
And I mean, how did the generations before me survive? Like, you're fine. Like,
go outside, play.
I mean, that's the only thing, right? They don't get to go outside the way we got. I was probably the very last generation that I was like the cutoff, probably, because then internet came into play. So by the time I was in high school, like MySpace existed. So I think that was really the cutoff, was probably right around that time.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
I remember I was like 20, I was in my early 20s and I looked out the window and I saw these 2 little girls in the front yard playing. I thought they were playing. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I feel like I never see kids play anymore. And then I just see, boop, that like she lifted the top of the iPad, not the iPad, the laptop. And it was like, literally, I just saw the Mac come up. And like she turned it on and then they like laid in the...
And that was it?
And that was it. And I was like, wow. And this was so long ago. I mean, this was like 13 years ago, 15 years ago. Like I'm not even talking about before I had kids.
Yeah.
Now it's like 1,000 times worse.
That I make it a point. So at least a couple times a year. For example, this year took a long backpacking trip up in the mountains, wilderness, zero internet, zero cell phone. Bring my boys with me because I need them to learn and live that, so that doesn't get lost. Yeah, so it doesn't get lost, right? Because they spend 99% of their life surrounded by technology. There's got to be a way to get them away from that. So I'm making it a point to find times where we find, I mean, it's almost, I guess people are calling it now like a retreat from technology. I don't know what.
Really?
Yeah, like you go to places where literally you're forced to not get any cell service or internet.
That's crazy.
It's crazy to think that that's kind of where we've got to, where you have to make it a point to go somewhere to get away from cell service or internet, connectivity. And so, thankfully, I live in a state where there's a lot of that. So I could do that pretty easy.
Yeah, for you, that's easy. I mean, for us, the beach is like, there's still cell service though. Like we still check our phones.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't know that I could do that though. I would have too much anxiety. I'd have to be with like all my kids to be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I'd be fine.
Then you'd be all right.
They drive me crazy. Which they do anyway. Okay, wait. I feel like we have not talked about anything helpful to anybody.
I'm sorry. That's my fault.
No, I think it's mine. I'm clearly not leading this conversation very well. Is there anything you want to tell the audience? Teach them? I don't know.
I mean, what could I tell the audience?
What have you learned recently?
Oh, what have I learned? Well, I'll tell you something. I learned, painfully. I've learned it before, but I learned it again. As lawyers, especially in what we do on the plaintiff side, for example, we fight for people. We try to help people. Sometimes you'll have a client. It's a case that maybe you get a marginal recovery for or something. There's just not enough money there. There's just bad facts, whatever. But in that client's eyes, you are the hero. You really have made this almost cataclysmic change in their life to help them move forward, and you are their hero. And there's such a level of gratefulness and appreciation, and that feeds the soul, right? It keeps us going. And then you'll have a situation or a case where you do something so incredible as a lawyer. You pull a rabbit out of a hat. I mean, you do your best work. You have basically a miracle happen where you're able to achieve something that probably no other lawyer could achieve, or just whatever, by happenstance. You just have such an incredible result for a client. And then your client just shits on you. And there's no appreciation, or there's a lack of appreciation and gratefulness. And it's hard to make sense. It's hard to make sense of that sometimes. And it's a hard job what we do, especially, most of the people you're surrounded with that are come on your show are they're people that actually care, right? They care about what they do. They care about the people that they're fighting for, because you have to be invested emotionally, because we're not just getting a paycheck from the insurance company for the hours that we're billing. We're actually fighting tooth and nail for the outcome of somebody, right? And you become emotionally involved. And so there's times where your soul is made right and complete with that gratefulness and thankfulness. And then there's times where, even though you did everything, where you did the best work, you should be the hero, you're getting shit on. I hate to say it like that, but you're just, and so, when you step back from that, you have to think sometimes it's just out of your control, right? As lawyers, it's out of our control that, I feel like I did everything I could possibly do to try and give this client the appreciation that I feel like they should have, or gratefulness they should have. And it didn't work. And so,
when you say it didn't work, you mean like the result that you got for the client, or the client is just...
result, for example, I'll just give you one example. Ridiculous result, right? 8-figure result in a case. Great, just incredible. Literally pulled rabbit out of a hat. I mean, did things found ways to make this case happen that, some of it was me, some of it, I give it up, like some divine intervention involved, right? But at the end of it, I'm still I'm the bad guy, because now the bad guy can't be the bad guy anymore. I'm the bad guy. Like,
do you think that's what it is? Or do you think that some humans always think like the grass is greener, and like the moment it's like over, they think you could have done better?
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
They were going to think that no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's totally dependent on each person, right? Because you'll have somebody who you're like, gosh, didn't have a great outcome for you there, and you moved mountains for them, and they're so appreciative. They love you. You were a hero for them. But then other times it's the exact opposite, and that makes our job hard. It's hard enough for what we do, the fighting, the constant fighting and battling and stress and anxiety and shit that we deal with in our cases that most clients don't have any clue, right? The behind the scenes, what's going on, until you give them some information about what's happening. And so it's hard what we do. And then when you're walking away from a case, even though the dollar figure may reflect that it was a home run, your client could leave you with a feeling of complete emptiness. And it's unfortunate. It's sad. But it's the nature of the beast, and we just got to keep rolling. Right.
How do you handle that?
I reflect deeply on, how could I have bettered? How could I improve? What could I have done differently to have helped this person feel like we did the best thing we could have possibly done. We had the best outcome we could possibly have for them, to be appreciated. And there's times where, maybe I could do something different, these things different. And then there's times where it's like, I don't know what I could have done different. And I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's on me. I don't know if I can own it. Maybe it's just them. That's the client. And, we have to just understand that,
not take it personal.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the 4 agreements? Have you read that book?
No.
Can you Google that real quick? 4 agreements. So number 2 is don't take anything personally. Hold on, let me see if I can remember.
Yeah, I'd like to.
This is like test
your memory here.
It's a really good book. I can't remember. Don't lie. I don't know. I don't know.
Don't lie. Yeah, that's a good one.
Don't be a fucking liar.
Be impeccable with your word.
See, that's don't lie.
Be impeccable with your word. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
Aw. Don't make assumptions and always do your best. That's cute. I really think only.
I feel like that'd be a great tattoo, right?
Yeah. What?
The 4.
Yeah. It's a super famous book. Read it.
Okay.
It's short. It's like you'll read it in like 30 minutes. Clearly not much of it stuck. But I think that part stuck. That's an important part.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard though. It's hard not to take it personal because it is so personal for us. I mean,
right. You have to make it personal to do right by the client, and then they are shitty at that sucks.
Yeah.
But that's really, again, a reflection of them, not a reflection of you.
Yeah, and that's the struggle, is to get to that place of understanding where you don't own it. You can't own it. You can own your shit, but you can't own their shit. Like, that's just the way it goes.
That when something keeps showing up, it's like the universe giving you a chance to get through it. And like, once you get through it, like the way that you should, like once you don't let it affect you, then it'll stop showing up.
Deep.
I don't know
That's real deep.
but I'm serious. I think like once you have that scenario and you're just like, then I don't think it'll keep happening. I think it keeps happening in a way because it's like this like vicious cycle. Yeah. And like I've seen it happen in my life so many times with so many things, like even like dumb things that I'm like, why does this keep happening to me?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm just not going to react next time it happens, and I'm just not going to care. I'm not going to let this rile me up. And then it stops happening.
I love that.
Yeah, try it. Next time it happens, just be like, I did a great job.
I'm going to try it tonight at 3 a.m. when I wake up with my nightly anxiety train and be like, doesn't matter. It's going back to sleep.
Yeah, try it. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. I hope somebody finds this fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
no
no
you do your
prep
homework
thing.
next time.
No prep thing isn't working. Thank you so much to Grant for everything he shared with us today. If you found the story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.